Hey, film friends, I'm Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film, a podcast where we break down movies, occasionally with some of my closest friends and special guests. But sometimes you're just alone in the world with your convictions, and you just gotta shave some heads and rub some bodies down with antihistamine cream from head to toe to ensure that the Andromedons don't come for us all. This is what a paranoid thriller looks like with Yorgos Lanthimos at the helm. It's Bugonia. Oh, well, my friends. It has been too long. What's it been, guys? Like 2 months? I have missed you terribly, and hopefully you've missed me a little bit too. You forget sometimes that these people who stand behind microphones and do podcasts also have personal lives where crazy things happen, not unlike this movie. No, there's no alien conspiracies in my own life, but things that kept me away, and now I'm back. So I'm happy to be back. You guys know when Yorgos is around, I've always got to do it. I think this is my third of his films that I've done as a review on this channel. I've got so much to say, but let's dig right in. Okay, so I do get some complaints sometimes that I don't do plot. So I do want to give you, I really don't think you need much plot here, but this is the very basic, but bare bones. We follow two conspiratorial true believers, really one and his sort of minor minion, who are convinced that a powerful CEO, played by Emma Stone, could we call her a she-EO? A powerful she-EO is actually an alien orchestrating humanity's downfall. That's the setup. So, but I would just say beyond that, story-wise, that it locks us into their worldview. In particular, Plemons. Plemons' worldview is who we view most of the film through. That's the lens through which there is a third-person perspective to certain parts, and Emma does get her time in the sun a little bit, but it pretty much locks into this worldview where you're distrusting everything, questioning everyone, digging deeper until we as an audience are not sure which way is up. It's a thriller where you're always on edge because the characters themselves never really stop spiraling. So I think when I want to talk about Yorgos, I want to talk about certain things, certain touchstones, and I do think that his films are more thematically rich than anything else, okay? When you really start digging into the plots of some of his movies, Sacred of Achilles, Killing of a Sacred Deer is probably the clearest example of this. Plot-wise, you dig too deep, you start hitting little chinks in the armor. But his movies are a few things. They are punishing, blackly comic, cynical, just bleak in a way that they go so dark that you arrive on the other side in this place of you just can't but laugh about sort of the craziness of it all. So I think that I will talk about the different themes, but what I find most engaging about Bugonia is, at least at first brush, is that this is Yorgos' way of doing a paranoid thriller. So now look, paranoid thrillers have been around forever. And if you are part of the sort of come up about it, I think one person kind of above all else is really going to come to mind, and that's Alan Pakula, right? So you're looking at the sort of late 70s, early 80s swath of movies that were dealing with kind of Cold War things. Do we trust our government? Deep Throat, Watergate, all that sort of stuff. So all the President's Men, right? Parallax View, those sorts of movies. Even things like Clue, those movies that are speaking to who do we trust that's in charge, right? But this is that kind of a movie, but it's completely, and one of the reasons I value it is that it's completely morphed into a modern context. So what I think this movie is more so about is how corporate moguls basically keep us enslaved to media and screens and consumption. And as a result of some of that, what you've landed on are these internet corners and echo chambers. And this one is specifically about the kind of modern ultra right-wing conspiracy theorists who have arisen in these internet echo chambers. So I think it's also important to say thematically, Yorgos is adapting this 2003 South Korean film called Save the Green Planet. So, which really, like, in terms of, like, it's almost beat for beat plot-wise. So you might be like, wow, I can't believe. That's the fascinating thing about me about this movie is Yorgos likes to adapt his own material. He likes to work with the screenwriter, write his own stuff. This was brought to him, and yet when you watch him put it on screen, you're like, holy crap, this is like a complete Yorgos movie. This is exactly the kind of stuff he would be dealing in. So, war, genocide, ecological collapse, and I think my point about the paranoid thriller is that this is paranoia made literal. Which is the only way Yorgos has to kind of do it, because, it taps into the kind of rabbit hole where every feedback loop just keeps confirming whatever fear that you started with. And there are other movies this year that I think are significant doing this. Eddington would be the clearest example. But so... yeah, it's taking swings at things like corporate control and consumption, which I meant, right-wing conspiracies formed online. Activism, this is a fascinating one. Activism as performance. There's a line of dialogue in the movie where it says 99% of activism is just personal exhibitionism, which I think is kind of like a thesis for the movie, where, these people are doing things, but it's as much about, and speaking of Eddington, it's as much about kind of the performance, the performative nature and virtue signaling of the people doing it as it is what their methodology, what their things are really about, right? So, which has long been sort of the critique that the right has lobbed at the left over the fence, is that, you're acting like you're these philanthropic or altruistic people, but in actuality, you're the wolves in sheep's clothing. So anyway, it's going on to all those sorts of things, but he has to literalize the satire. So, like, what's the most literal conspiracy theory, right? It's that there are aliens among us, and they're all here, if you watch the X-Files or something, to, like, anal probe us and test us and do all this sort of stuff. So he takes that, he makes it literal, which, again, that's a move of comic genius. It's hilarious. And so they kidnap this girl, and they put her through all these sort of tests, which are supposed to reveal her true nature as an Andromedan, so that she can then talk to the Emperor upon this dawning lunar eclipse and save the planet, right? But, and interestingly, and I think this even adds to it, this is the most real world that Yorgos has gotten. I mean, Jesse Plemons works in an Amazon type environment. She kind of envisions, or resembles the Theranos woman. There's just like real things here, right? Real bikes, real people, real modernism, real apiary fascinations with bees. So it makes the social commentary almost bite even harder. But in true Yorgos fashion, there's no real heroes here. Even the people you think might be on the right side, they're compromised by their own delusion, ideology, self-interest, like all these sorts of things. Craft-wise, I always talk about sound design, cinematography, below-the-line, stuff like that. I think the score is really effective here. I think the sound design is awesome. I think the film's still top tier Yorgos without these obvious surreal lenses, where you see all the movies like The Favorite and Poor Things go like heavy into production design and period pieces and all this sort of stuff. Now it's more a real small town things, but they're captured in like cramped spaces, down hallways, in basements, the kinds of places where paranoia festers. But then you also get these Academy ratio shots of like Plemons zooming down on bikes to like heighten tension. And the sound design kind of all matches the way he's done all this. Buzzing fluorescent lights, there's whispers, there's humming machines, machinery. There's the whole thing is just meant to keep you tense. So it doesn't, it looks way more grounded than those last two films of his that I mentioned, but it's still unmistakably him, cold precision, uncomfortable wide lenses, and this sort of, again, like completely blackly comic sense of detachment. So, all right, some pros, some cons. Where are we going with it? I think this is a near career best performance by Jesse Plemons. He is sweaty and disheveled and tortured and sort of incel adjacent. And, I mean, talk about like embodying a character. Now, there's a lot of like fat to chew on in a character like this, but I do think what's most impressive is not how kooky he is, although he is that. It's more how he like brings any sort of humanity to it at all. He's the emotional anchor of the film. And watching him kind of unravel is, while you're rooting for Emma to escape, it's also quietly devastating. Not only as it's revealed through a series of flashbacks, which may or may not work for people, why he is at least in part, the way he is, but also just the nature of the fact that he's suffering. Emma Stone. I mean, she just continues to push herself into new, like, self-effacing territory. Like, she'll shave her head, uglify herself, get tortured, do some I don't even know which martial art it is, but she's scrambling through grass and trying to run away from her captors. It seems like it's like, I've got 2 Oscars now. Let me just like completely wipe away this sweet ingenue that you thought I was. And so wherever Yorgos needs from his muse, she gives it. And somehow, 3-4 movies running, it just keeps working. So I also want to say as a pro that Aiden, I think it's Aiden Dilbus is his name. I'll double check that, but this is his first role. He's a neurodivergent young man. He's on the autistic spectrum, and Yorgos like cast him, and I just think his performance is it's like, yeah, it's devastating, but it's also just like really grounded and nuanced and professional, and it's just really, really cool. So I feel like those two are going to get all these accolades, but what I see him doing in this movie is it's noteworthy. Like, we need to do more of this kind of casting, and I credit, Emma obviously is producing this film, Yorgos directing. Like, I credit them for going out and grabbing him, because I think he's kind of a revelation in a movie with 2 tour de force performances. Beyond that, the film's critique of modern conspiracy culture, obviously it hits hard, right? It's the way it mirrors the sort of pathway that fringe beliefs metastasize online. It's frighteningly accurate at times. It's painfully recognizable. And I think thematically, and this is like a big duh for Yorgos fans, the movie doesn't flinch. The dude goes hard, and he never lets off the gas. He never stops swinging. Whatever sort of sports adjacent metaphor you want to use, the guy leaves nothing on the table. So he stares straight at humanity's obsessions with these things like screens and corporate overlords and all that stuff, and the way that they keep us sedated while they pillage the world. I mean, that's this movie. It's not like in the actual text, but it's not that subtextual, really. Cons. All right, listen, in order to do this, we're going to have to get into a little bit of spoiler territory, okay? One of the common complaints that I've heard, which I honestly personally don't have a problem with, but I want to address it, is that the kooks, again, spoiler territory, the kooks turn out to be right. Like, Plemons is right. And not only is he right, he's like really, really right. He's right about using hair to communicate with the Andromedons back home. He's right about putting antihistamine cream on their bodies so that they can't get this message out. He's right about torturing people to get to the person who can communicate on the lunar. Like, he's very, very right. And for some viewers, I think that undercuts the satire. But I would actually say that I think it makes the points of the film even more sharp, even more meaningful. Because I guess, again, I would want to talk about two words when I would talk about Yorgos above all, and that's satire and irony, right? So how do you satirize these internet chambers the best way? Well, you make one of the kooks right. Like, what is irony? Irony, according to the sort of Troy Ethan Hawke definition in Reality Bites, right, is when the actual meaning is the complete opposite of the literal meaning. And so I think that this is the height of an ironic statement, right? It's like, we're in this world where not only are we being consumed by this fact that this real alien who's become a CEO, but the people who seem the most crazy are the ones that are right. So the underlying method and the underlying theme of all of this, and really all of Yorgos' pictures, and really all the Coen pictures, but even more darkly so with Yorgos, is, and I haven't said it yet, is we're fucked. Like, that's really what this film is about thematically. And I think when you make the paranoid kooky person the right one, then you just make that all the more stark. You sort of literalize the nonsense, and then you make your point hit home even harder. My actual bigger problem is deeper than that. You see, we're told that this alien society is philanthropic, that they're pure, they're evolved, they're morally superior, and yet Emma's playing like a CEO who is test micing people, lab ratting, using them as lab rats to try and get to some cure. But I mean, he poisons people. She poisons people. She gets him to kill his mom. Yeah, it could be to go away. And his mom's Alicia Silverstone. Like, how old am I getting? She shows zero moral hesitation about collateral damage. And I think that you could look at that as a symptom of, like, again, the irony of the film. But I struggle with a movie that is attempting to portray this alien species as, like, extremely altruistic and yet doing the things that they're doing. Not necessarily the ending of the movie, but like the very end. But like, it doesn't seem like she's really all that altruistic, and that sort of clashes. So I think if you run that analysis too far into the movie, the layers start peeling. That's what I was saying about Yorgos as a plot engine wizard. The altruism mixed with the brutality doesn't totally reconcile for me. I think an explanation that I've heard from some people is that she is sort of corrupted by the American, or specifically the American in this case, but the sort of the humanity's condition of brokenness, and that it the trappings of power and wealth and fame and stuff, she assimilates them and kind of collapses herself. But the movie doesn't really talk about that. So that, to me, is a little problematic. The second thing is just a little thing, the Yorgos meta effect, I'll call it. I think if any other person had done this movie, the reveal would have hit harder for me because I wouldn't have saw it coming. But in this one, I could, like, half the movie, I'm like, yeah, she's probably really an alien. Like, just because of who he is, just because of, like, that would be the funniest, darkest comic thing that could happen. And that, what tends to happen? See, Dogtooth. So, like, I was kind of half expecting it. He's the kind of guy whose brain goes, yeah, aliens are totally on the table. So that said, I think it still does a smart seesawing job between possibilities, which keeps the tension alive. So, in conclusion, at the end of the day, Bugonia is a cynical, punishing, and wickedly funny experience. Its final message isn't subtle. We're screwed. And I'm sorry, I have to say, the last montage is just like scene after scene of like Wes Anderson style perfectly framed, symmetrical dead bodies in all of these different experiences and all of these different ages and all of these different nations in the world is the total chef's kiss of this movie. Like, if you think the scene where she comes up out of the water and is conversing with the other aliens is like hokey, I think it might meant to be, that just completely makes up for it. I was like, oh my gosh, what an ending. So good. So, yeah, anyway, this is Yorgos doing a paranoid thriller, and while it doesn't always hold together like under the smallest microscopes, I'd say it's bold, bleak, it's unforgettable. So what do you want to know? My FOF rating, I will score this one 4.2 out of 5 stars. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I am glad to be back, and I hope to be doing this at least weekly now for you guys as we start to roll into awards season. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, tell your friends, phone a friend, call a neighbor, watch out for aliens in the basement. I mean, you know the deal. All right. Until next time, I'm Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film. Stay firm, my friends.